Couldn't be more excited to hit Mille Lacs Lake. It's right after opener. The fish are just teeming in the shallow water right now. There's fish stacked up everywhere from 12 feet to 6 feet. A lot of times when you catch a fish, you see them. There's fish following. Things are happening. I love spring in Minnesota. I love catching walleyes on jerk baits. Shadow wraps are probably my favorite bait. They obviously come in a wide variety. This is a deep diving shadow wrap. They also make a deep diving shadow wrap shad. Excellent, excellent baits all season long, but I love them in the spring. And what's cool about these baits is when you fish them on a braid and a fluorocarbon leader, because there's no stretch, when you pop them and you go on a slack line, that bait will actually slash sideways and turn sideways. And the biggest key to fishing jerk baits are pauses. I love fishing these baits on like a 6-pound braid with a fluorocarbon leader. Like I said, long casts and long pauses. Oh, there's one. There we go. Right on the pause like it's supposed to happen. I love that. Just nothing more entertaining than when you go to jerk that bait and there's a fish on the other end. That thing just smoked it. Oh, there we go. Not too bad a fish to start out the day, I'll tell you that. And look at that. The biggest key thing is, again, long casts and pauses. I can't emphasize it enough. You know, sometimes when the water's real cold, like in the 40s like this, sometimes you can pause for 10, 15, even 30 seconds at a time and then work that bait back to the boat. The other thing is I like using a spinning rod. I think I get a lot better action out of a spinning rod. I know a lot of folks use casting rods, and I do too, but I really prefer a spinning rod when I'm working jerk baits. And I think I can work it down. I can also work it up in the water column. You know, depending on how you move that rod tip is gonna determine how that bait moves in the water column. Today I'm using a spinning rod. I've got a 6/8 medium light, but extra fast tip. You know, that's really important for loading up on these fish. I like that extra fast tip. It's instantaneous hook setting power when I'm fishing jerk baits. This one happens to be a St. Croix Legend X. It's just a really nice rod for casting. Again, I get long casts with the spinning rod, and when I'm working a light jerk bait, I really prefer using a spinning rod over a casting rod. Now, if I go with heavier jerk baits or if I'm bass fishing a lot of times, I'll go back and forth between a casting rod and a spinning rod. But today, just using that light spinning rod. Again, can't emphasize enough that medium light power with an extra fast tip. It's really what I prefer. And then, you know, another real key element to fishing jerk baits is when you're working these baits, not only adding long pauses, but also slacken my line. As I bring my rod tip forward, I'm throwing that bait sideways. It adds a lot of action to the bait, and it's really a key element to putting more fish in the boat. Regardless of brand of unit you're using, make sure you're using the share waypoint capabilities or networking. Network these units so when you see them in the back or you mark something in the back, it pops up in the front. It's a very, very powerful tool and something that I utilize on a daily basis and back and forth. Sometimes I'll mark things up here in the bow that instantly pop in there, so I have them at all times. You know, when you're fishing these big natural glacial lakes and it's clear like this in the spring, regardless of where you're at, you know, spend time looking. I spend a lot of time at the helm looking for fish first, but looking for structure as well. I'll mark rocks, I'll mark timber, whatever it is as far as structure, I'll mark that. But early in the season like this, I like to fish these rocky areas with good depressions. You know, you've got a good mix of sand, rock, you know, great spawning areas. Those are some of the places I look for first. And again, it all comes down to doing your homework, driving around and marking those spots, and then coming around fishing it. You know, with structure scan, a lot of times you'll see those fish hanging on that structure, how they're relating to the structure, and that'll dictate how you fish that structure. You know, a lot of times surface temp will dictate how fast you should fish a bait. Also, let the fish tell you how fast you should fish it. You know, if you add long pauses in there and that's when you're getting your strikes, make sure you're adding longer pauses. It's super easy to cast it out and get excited and jerk, jerk, jerk away. But if you add long pauses and that's when you're getting your strikes, that's what you need to do. There's other times if you're working it fast and that's what's prompting the strikes, you know, just keep doing that. And it's all about that repetition. But generally, if I start with surface temp, you're gonna wanna start slow and fish slow and work this, especially as you work varying depths. Like I'm casting up to shallow water rock. Like I said, I'm fishing those ledges. As I pull off the ledge, I'll add longer pauses as I get over that deeper water. And this water is really clear right now. These fish can see this for a long ways, so don't worry about being close to the bottom. You know, they're gonna chase it, they're gonna come up in the water column and feed. There we go. Again, on the pause. You know, you get in that habit, oh, it's a smallie too. You get in that habit of jerking it too fast, and you know, you gotta tell yourself to slow down sometimes when it's in cold water. Just T-bone that bait. Jerk baits are such a versatile bait, you know, they catch every species of fish. And what's cool about it is you can cover water, you know. Mille Lacs is such a big lake with lots of structure and lots of different species. It's really, really important to be able to cover water, especially if you've never fished out here. It can be a little bit intimidating. There we go. Oh, that is a nice looking brown bass. What a beauty. Oh, there we go. Now that's a Mille Lacs beast right there. Mille Lacs is such a treasure when it comes to catching big fish, big walleyes, big bass, big pike. It's just one of those destinations that you go and you know you're gonna target and catch big fish. Look at that girl.